Tatravi adabhya niyamo Vaikanasa susammate Arabdha ukra tapasi Yata swa vijaye pura. After retiring from family life, Maharaj Prithu strictly followed the regulations of retired life and underwent severe austerities in the forest. Engaged in these activities as seriously as he had formerly engaged in leading the government and conquering everyone. So he was very exemplary. Even when he was doing his austerities, he was very exemplary. He wasn't just only strict in his government administration. Sometimes some people work so hard, but then when they retire, they're like, no rules, nothing. So here you can see with the same determination he was running the government, he also did the same for his own austerity. He didn't cut corners or didn't take it seriously. He was very serious. And part of the reason why he was very serious is he wanted to set good examples to his citizens. He wanted everyone to know how they also should do it. Now, he is a Shaktivesh avatar. He doesn't need to do this. But because this is Satya Yuga, there is a certain system that they all have to follow. For him, he doesn't need to, but he was setting good right example. So therefore, he went to the forest and performed these austerities for tapasya, you can see. Prabhupada writes in the purport, a couple of lines down, the Grihastha ashram is a sort of concession combining sense gratification with a regulative life. It is to enable one to easily retire in the middle of life and engage fully in austerities in order to transcend material sense gratification once and for all. Okay, so basically Vanaprastha stage is meant for tapasya or austerities. Okay. So it doesn't mean you only are strict as a brahmachari or a brahmacharini and then as grihastha you're strict. No, all your life. Brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha or sannyas. All different varnas you have to be strict. Or ashrams also you have to be serious. Okay? So similarly you can reflect on how you should be executing your own Krishna consciousness. Right? Because the whole idea is to go back to Godhead. And here Maharaj Prithu is showing us how he was exemplary and how he executed his own life. Text 5. Kandamula palahara Shushka parnashana kvachit Abhaksha katichit Pakshan Vayu bhakshas tatha param. In the Tapovana, Maharaj Prithu sometimes ate the trunks and roots of trees and sometimes he ate fruit and dried leaves, and for some weeks he drank only water. Finally, he lived simply by breathing air. So you should understand when you become a Vanaprastha, you have to reduce opulent life, basically. Okay. Now we are in a modern society, so maybe not as austere as Maharaj Prithu, but at least we shouldn't be eating opulently. Prabhupada also writes, when Prithu Maharaj went to the forest, he did not any cooked food sent from the city by his devotees or disciples like that. Because these things happen. It's happening still in this society. You can see, I guess Prabhupada has seen it also. And how some of the sannyasis, they are getting people coming to deliver food or prasadam like that. So basically you can see he adopted very strict rules. So sometimes he ate nothing. Okay? But only dry leaves, or he drank nothing but just water. And sometimes there's nothing but he simply whole day just breathing only. And sometimes he ate some fruits. Okay, so we shouldn't eat too much or too little, particularly when you are practicing yoga like that. And then in the next paragraph, Prabhupada writes, however, to live in a temple is to live in Vaikuntha. Okay? Which is transcendental to all the modes of material nature. This Krishna consciousness movement affords one the opportunity to live in the temple of the Lord, which is as good as Vaikuntha. Consequently, a Krishna conscious person does not need to go to the forest and artificially try to imitate Maharaj Prithu or the great sages and munis who used to live in the forest. So, for us, temple life is very close to living in a forest. But at the same time, if you see it like that, then you won't want to go to the temple. But rather we should see the temple as Vaikuntha itself. So therefore we should go there all the time. So if you go to the temple and practice, then you don't need to go to the forest. That is what Prabhupada wants us to understand. So in the next paragraph, Prabhupada writes, Rupa Goswami, Srila Gaur, after retiring from his minister's seat in the government, went to Vrindavan and lived beneath a tree like Maharaj Prithu. Then he says, since then many people have gone to Vrindavan to imitate Rupa Goswami's behavior. Instead of advancing in spiritual life, many have fallen into material habits and even in the Vrindavan have become victims of illicit sex, gambling and intoxication. You see that. If you go to Vrindavan, you see many of these people, they are smoking, ganja, or drinking. So many nonsense activities are happening in Vrindavan itself, in the name of spiritual life. And Prabhupada continues to explain, the Krishna consciousness movement has been introduced in the Western countries, but it is not possible for Westerners to go to the forest and practice the severe austerities which were ideally practiced by Prithu Maharaj or Rupa Goswami. So basically, anyone outside of India is like Westerners. Now even Indians are becoming like Westerners, which means people can't really practice going to forests and performing austerities. So therefore Prabhupada says, however, Westerners or anyone else can follow in the footsteps of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur by living in a temple. So that is the reason why we have temple, which is transcendental to residence in a forest and to vow to accept Krishna Prasada and nothing else. Follow the regulative principles and chant 16 rounds daily of the Hare Krishna mantra. In this way, one's spiritual life will never be disturbed. That's the reason for the temples for us. That's the main reason. Because you can't go to forest anymore, because there's not enough forest anymore. They all cut down and build houses like that. Like 6. Grishme pancha tapaviro
Grishme pancha tapaviro
Varshashvasha Rashan Muni
Varshashvasa Rashan Muni
Akanta Magna Shishire
Akanta Magna Shishire
Udake Standinishaya
Udake Standileshaya.
Following the principles of forest living and the footsteps of great sages and munis, Prithu Maharaj accepted 5 kinds of heating processes during the summer season, exposed himself to torrents of rain in the rainy season, and in the winter stood in the water up to his neck. He also used to simply lie down on the floor to sleep. So all these are different types of austerities. Most people can't do it nowadays, so our austerities is simply trying to do chanting 16 rounds. It's already difficult. So
For regular prasadam, not anything else.
Yeah. Excellent. Titikshu yata vagdanta
Titikshuryata vagdanta
udvareta jitanilaha
Udvareta titanilaha
Arirada Ishu Krishnam
Arirada Ishu Krishnam
Acharatapa Uttamam.
Acharatapa Uttamam.
Maharaj Prithu underwent all these severe austerities in order to control his words and his senses, to refrain from discharging his semen, and to control the life air within his body. All this he did for the satisfaction of Krishna. He had no other purpose. So even his austerities he dedicated to Krishna, not to show off. Sometimes people show off because of the false ego. We want to show people, I'm good at this, I can do this, I can stand on my head and I can do all these things. And the Prabhupada says, because when you read, you think you have to do all this. So Prabhupada is bringing us down back to the earth. In Kali Yuga, the following is recommended: Harinama, Harinama, Harinama Vai, Kevalam, Kalanaste, Vanaste, Vanaste, Vagati, Anyata. In order to be recognized by Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one should chant the holy name of the Lord continuously 24 hours a day. Unfortunately, persons who cannot accept this formula prefer to execute some type of pseudo meditation without accepting the other processes of austerity. So you can find so many yoga societies and so on, meditation clubs, all kinds of transcendental societies and stuff like that. But they don't follow any other rules or anything. The fact is, however, that one must accept either the severe method of austerity described above to become purified, or to take to the process of devotion service recommended for pleasing the Supreme Lord Krishna. That means there is a process and we should take it up, not invent our own process. The person who is Krishna conscious is most intelligent, because in Kali Yuga it is not at all possible to undergo such severe austerities. So what he means is those who take up this Hare Krishna, ISKCON, all those things, they are more intelligent. We need only follow great personalities like Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In his Shikshashtaka, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wrote Param Vijay Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. All glories to the holy names of Lord Krishna, which from the very beginning purify the heart and immediately liberate one. So when we simply chant, it's to our benefit. Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam. So to purify the heart, burn away all the difficult things. Living in this material world is like a forest fire. So that's what it is. But we should use Krishna consciousness to even burn that forest fire. If the real purpose of all yoga is to please Lord Krishna, then this simple bhakti yoga system recommended for this age is sufficient. That's the point. It is necessary, however, to engage constantly in the service of the Lord. So even though we chant, we should do services. Although Prithu Maharaj executed his austerities long before the appearance of Lord Krishna on this planet, his purpose was still to please Krishna. So according to time, place and circumstances, you should do the recommended process, not create our own. Some people like to follow, or that in the previous age so and so did this, I want to do. You can't do this. You are not qualified anymore. So towards the middle of the last paragraph, Prabhupada writes, we should therefore, after reading Prithu Maharaj, you get discouraged. So he says we should therefore not be discouraged just because we cannot go to the forest and practice severe austerities. Our life is so short that we must strictly adhere to the principles laid down by the Vaishnava Acharyas and peacefully execute Krishna consciousness. There is no need to become despondent. Naradam Das Thakur recommends Anande Bale Hari Bhaja Vrindavan Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majaya Mana. For a transcendental blissful life, chant the Hare Krishna mantra, come worship the holy place of Vrindavan, and always engage in the service of the Lord, of the spiritual master, and of the Vaishnavas. This Krishna consciousness movement is therefore very safe and easy. We have only to execute the order of the Lord and fully surrender unto Him. We have only to execute the order of the spiritual master, preach Krishna consciousness, and follow the path of the Vaishnavas. The spiritual master represents both Lord Krishna and the Vaishnavas. Therefore, by following the instructions of the spiritual master and by chanting Hare Krishna, everything will be alright. So Prabhupada is making it very simple for us to execute our austerities.
Same as my shop.
So basically chant Hare Krishna, go on parikrams once a year, then you can go to holy places like that. Do some service at all times. Try to do service every day if you can, and that makes it easy for us towards the end of our life to surrender to Krishna. That's 8. Tena kramanusiddhena
Tena kramanusiddhena
Dvastakarma malashayaha
Dvastakarma malashayaha
Pranayamai sanniruddha
Pranayamaya sanniruddha
Sadvarga chinna bandhanaha.
Sadvargas chinna bandhanaha.
By thus practicing Siddhi austerities, Maharaj Prithu gradually became steadfast in spiritual life and completely free of all desires for fruitive activities. He also practiced breathing exercises to control his mind and senses, and by such control he became completely free from all desires for fruitive activities. So he also did breathing, controlling the breathing, so pranayama. So Prabhupada writes in the purport, middle first part, the aim of pranayama is not to make the body strong and fit for working hard. The aim is worship of Krishna. In the previous verse, it was specifically mentioned whatever austerities, pranayama, mystic yoga practices Prithu Maharaj performed were performed for the sake of worshipping Krishna. And then, towards the before that, Yat Pada Pankaja Palasu, a couple of lines before that, Prabhupada says, as far as pranayama is concerned, chanting of the holy name of the Lord and dancing in ecstasy are also considered pranayama. When you chant, you are breathing, you know. So when you are chanting the holy name, and dancing, you are also breathing. So that's all pranayama. That's a very nice way to know. In the previous verse, Sanat Kumar instructed Maharaj Prithu to engage constantly in the service of the Supreme Lord Vasudeva. Pada Pankaja Palasha Vilasha Bhaktya Karmasha Yamundrahitam Udgritayanti Shantaha. Only by worshipping Vasudeva can one become free from the desires of fruitive activities. Outside of worshipping Vasudeva, the yogis and jnanis cannot attain freedom from such desires. So in the next paragraph, here the word pranayama does not refer to any ulterior motive. The actual aim is to strengthen the mind and senses in order to engage them in devotional service. In the present age, this determination can be very easily acquired simply by chanting the holy names Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. So simple pranayama. Prabhupada made it very simple. Yes. Chant
And dance.
And dance. And by chanting and dancing, we can focus on Krishna and taking prasadam also. And also doing service. That's the main thing. There's no other thing for doing pranayama. Some people do pranayama so that they can get material benefit. His point is it's all for Krishna. It's a very nice way. Text 9. Sanat Kumaro Bhagavan
Sanat Kumaro Bhagavan
Ahadhyadmikam param
Yat Ahadhyadmikam param
Yogam Yogavidhenaiva Purusham
Yogavidhenaiva Purusham
Avajat Purusharishava. Thus the best amongst human beings, Maharaj Prithu, followed that path of spiritual advancement which was advised by Sanat Kumara, that is to say, he worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So basically the whole, the purport is there, it's about just worshipping the Lord, which we more or less have touched upon. Text 10. Bhagavad Dharmina Sadho Shraddhaya Yatata Sada Bhaktir Bhagavati Brahmani Ananya Vishaya Bhava. Maharaj Prithu thus engaged completely in devotional service, executing the rules and regulations strictly according to principles, 24 hours daily. Thus his love and devotion unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, developed and became unflinching and fixed. Here he is doing yoga, tapas and so on. And he is doing it for pleasing Krishna. So therefore it is all devotional service. So we shouldn't think he is just doing only some yoga. So in the purport, Prabhupada says, Bhagavad Dharmina is described by Viraraghava Acharya as Nivrita Dharmena, which indicates that it cannot be contaminated by material aspiration. So basically, Maharaj Prithu was doing something that was sanctioned, not some concoction. And not only that, he wasn't doing it for material things. He doesn't, sometimes people only want to come to temple because they want some benefits, material benefits at that. So here, it is very clearly said, it's Bhagavad Dharmina. It's for the pleasure of the Lord, and he wanted to do it to set an example to all his citizens and followers also.
Viraraghava Acharya is our disciplic succession.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's one, you can check in the Bhagavad Gita. Right?
Viraraghava Acharya.
Which
I heard many times his name.
Yeah. Text 11. Tasyanaya Bhagavata Parikarma Shuddha
Tasyanaya Bhagavata Parikarma Shuddha
Sattvatmanastaranu samsmarananupurtya
Sattvatmanastadanu
Jnanam viraktimarabhum nishitena yena
Jnanam viraktimarabhum nishitena yena
Chicheda samshayapadam nija jiva kosham
Chicheda samshayapadam nija jiva kosham.
By regularly discharging devotional service, Prithu Maharaj became transcendental in mind and could therefore constantly think of the lotus feet of the Lord. Because of this, he became completely detached and attained perfect knowledge by which he could transcend all doubt. Thus he was freed from the clutches of false ego and the material conception of life. You can say he's come to the Samadhi stage. He's almost there, like that. Because he's always seeing the lotus feet of the Lord. In the Prabhupada writes very nicely, in the Narada Pancharatra, devotion service to the Lord is likened onto a queen. When a queen gives an audience, many maidservants follow her. The maidservants of devotional service are material opulence, liberation and mystic powers. The karmis are very much attached to material enjoyment, the jnanis are very anxious to become free from material clutches, and the yogis are very fond of attaining the 8 kinds of mystic perfection. From the Narada Pancharatra, we understand that if one attains the stage of pure devotional service, he also attains all the opulences derived from fruitive activities, empiric philosophical speculation, and mystic yogic practice. Srila Bilva Mangala Thakur therefore prayed in his Krishna Karnamrita, my dear Lord, if I have unflinching devotion to you, you become manifest before me personally, and the results of fruitive activity and empiric philosophical speculation, namely religion, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation, become like personal attendants and remain standing before me as if awaiting my order. That's a very nice prayer. Basically, his prayer is he just wants to serve Krishna, and if he gets all those in the process of praying, he don't want them to overcome him, but they should only wait until if he needs them. Like that maid servant or personal attendant in this case. Okay. Yeah. So basically, we also, when we practice, we should practice to please Krishna. We shouldn't be practicing to get some material things. I think there's a tendency for, when as a devotee community we tend to see things often in the materialistic way, even when we approach Sri Krishna. Even though we know many times we shouldn't do that, we always still, and that's because we are not making advancement. Unless we practice seriously, we won't make advancement, and therefore we are always thinking of material benedictions or material solution like that. And that's not going to relieve us of our problems. And so these are things when you read, because Prabhupada puts it up very on the table, he puts the cards on the table. Karma is only one material enjoyment. Jnana is one some liberation from material clutches. And the others one mystic perfection. But all these are material things. Whereas a devotee is only thinking of serving Krishna. And if we approach Krishna with wanting some material things, it's not going to be in our favor. Then we just fall back into either karmi, jnani or a yogi like that. So it's very important, no? There must be a good reason to practice Krishna consciousness. So that should be your main goal toward your life. Irregardless of external situation, your goal must be very, very clear in your mind. Because otherwise you can keep on life after life hearing the same thing, and you cannot make that change in your heart. The process is actually it's supposed to affect your heart. And here you can see, even though Prithu Maharaj is already a liberated person, he is setting an example to show how one can, by his process, he's saying he's getting the result. So similarly, our good example is Srila Prabhupada. He showed, even though he was a liberated person, he went through all the practical life of a grihastha, suffering, giving up, taking sannyas, preaching alone, suffering again, coming to the West, then being successful. And yet he wasn't interested in anything material. At all points in time you look, he wasn't interested. So similarly, our whole practice should be centered on this proper goal. You have to make sure you understand why you are practicing. And then when you approach Krishna, then he will help you if you really require the assistance. So you try to reflect on Sudama Vipra, right? Even though his wife asked him, go and get this money because we are poor, we can't buy anything for children, this and that. But he wasn't thinking like that. And he never asked Krishna also, and he went back. Still Krishna gave him. So similarly, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, right? He says, whatever you lack, I will cover for you. So therefore the goal in practicing must be properly understood. Otherwise we will make all these small mistakes, and instead of going back in one lifetime, we may have to do it in a few lifetimes.
So may I ask something now? I've come late and I just quick read the previous verses. It shows that the Maharaj Prithu did a whole lot of austerities. Now are we supposed to do that? Not exactly that, but some austerities?
Our austerities are what Prabhupada gave us.
Just follow the process.
Yes. Just follow whatever Prabhupada teaches, because we can't even follow that. That's for us to do that is our austerity. Okay? So after that verse from Bhagavad Gita where Prabhupada quotes Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpati, right? Mamchaya Vibhacharya. So after that, in the paragraph, Srila Prabhupada writes, because of continuing his description, because of his regular discharge of devotional service, a devotee attains a transcendental stage of life, which means you have to do it regularly. Not one day you chant, another day you don't chant. Because there is this tendency even among devotees also to take it, oh no, today I'll be serious, tomorrow I won't be so serious. Today I'll get up, tomorrow maybe I'll chant after this program, that program. No, everything should be regular. The only way you will find that you make progress is if you are regular. And that is a fact. Try, for example, if you say you want to go to Mangalarati, you have to get up at the same time every day. You cannot say one day you get up 2 o'clock, one day you get up 3 o'clock, one day 5 o'clock, one day like that. You won't last more than a day like that. You can't. So every day you do the same thing. Yeah, difficult. Okay, I can do it. Difficult. I can do it. Then after that it becomes normal. Automatically your body will get up. You don't even need alarm clock. It's like that. After a few years, it's set. The body and so when you're that is in the mode of goodness actually. When you're regulated, then you are actually in the mode of goodness. When you anyhow you do, then you're in the mode of passion. When you don't do, then you're in the ignorance category. Yeah. So when you do it regularly, then who you're doing for, that should be the next thing in your heart you have to think about. I'm doing it for my spiritual master, I'm doing it for Srila Prabhupada, I'm doing it for Krishna. And then you do it with that mindset, then you get the results. Okay? You'll get it sooner than if your mind is not focused on that. Then it'll take time. Right? Then it's like just doing something. It's like if you do it favorably, then you get sooner the appreciation. Right? For example, you serve your spiritual master and you serve him lovingly, or you go take and then you go, he'll think, oh, this guy is serving, but he's not so happy serving me. Right? But for one who serves nicely, he'll think, oh, this is a nice person. So that's the mood is different. Right? So it's the same way, just if you remember reading in the third canto, right? Shishupal was always thinking of Krishna, but he was thinking unfavorably in an angry way. Okay. But so when he was killed, by Krishna, he didn't get to go back to Vaikuntha. Because he was unfavorable, he only landed in Brahmajyoti. And that is not a permanent situation. So our attitude must be very right in executing.
Prabhu, now Shishupal, we know it was Jaya and Vijaya. I know that while talking about Shishupal, we should only think him as a demon and what he did out of envy to Krishna. But ultimately he went to Vaikuntha, right, as a Jaya and Vijaya. But not
Ultimately he went there.
Right.
Alright, so continuing, since his mind is transcendently situated, he cannot think of anything but the lotus feet of the Lord. So once you reach that stage of very strong meditation, dhyana, dharana, dhyana, and then samadhi.
Dharana dhyana.
Yeah, dharana, dhyana. So it's like almost at the point of completely remembering Krishna, like that. So he cannot think of anything. His mind always automatically goes to Krishna. So similarly, if you do every day like that, your mind will always be thinking of Krishna. This is the meaning of the word samsmarana anupurtya. By constantly thinking of the lotus feet of the Lord, the devotee immediately becomes situated in Shuddha Sattva. Not just Sattva, it's Shuddha Sattva. So Shuddha Sattva is Vishuddha Sattva, which is Vasudeva Sattva. Okay? That means transcendental, not material platform. In the material world, the mode of goodness is considered to be representative of the highest perfection. But one has to transcend this mode and come to the stage of Shuddha Sattva, or pure goodness, where the three qualities of material nature cannot act. That is why Krishna told Arjuna to rise above the three modes. So this is what he wants him to come to this stage. Now, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives the following example. If one has strong digestive power, after eating he automatically lights a fire within his stomach to digest everything and does not need to take medicine to aid his digestion. Similarly, the fire of devotional service is so strong that a devotee does not need to act separately to attain perfect knowledge or detachment from material attraction. Right? Jnanam jahat ahitam, right? It is so strong. If you do it properly, everything will be delivered to you. That's all. Automatically, vairagya and jnana will appear.
Automatically detachment and knowledge.
Yeah. Automatically it will come. You will find that when you become more serious, you will feel that you will not be attracted to material things, and it's not a joke, it's a fact.
Yeah.
But then if you don't keep at it and then go back to material things, then you lose that taste or that attraction. Okay. But if you seriously think, you'll see you don't really want anything to do with matter. So that is important. A jnani may become detached from material attraction by prolonged discussions on subjects of knowledge and may in this way finally come to Brahma Bhuta stage. But a devotee does not have to undergo so much trouble. By virtue of his devotional service, he attains the Brahma Bhuta stage without a doubt. See the difference? It's easy for a devotee. Just by serving Krishna, he becomes indifferent to material things. Right? Indifferent. And then the more he continues performing devotional practice, all his miseries will be vanquished without delay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Huh?
Asu is quickly. Asu is quickly.
Quickly, yeah.
And in that verse, Prabhu,
Yeah.
Vasudeva Bhagavati Janayati Asu Vairagya.
Asu Vairagya.
Janayati generates quickly this detachment
And knowledge.
knowledge. Jnanam says Ahaitu. That is causeless. That is the
Causeless.
causeless mercy of the Lord.
Yes. That's why if you just do it for him, then he will give you that. And it is you cannot force it, but he does it.
Just-
That's up to him. Without a doubt. Okay. Because everyone who does it are doubtful. When you are doing devotional service, you shouldn't have doubts. That's the difference. The Jnanis and yogis, they don't know whether they're going to get it now. So they are depending on their own austerities.
Yeah.
Whereas we depend on Krishna. When he gives, he'll give. Right? Just like a father will tell the child, I will give you, but you don't ask. So the child will know he's going to get it. And so he's peaceful, no doubt. But if the father said, I don't know, and then the child will like, what, when, right? So always the mind will be disturbed. So the jnanis and all the others are always disturbed. It's important to know why we are doing it properly. So in the last paragraph, Prabhupada talks, although Prithu Maharaj was eternally a pure devotee of the Lord, he nonetheless adopted the process of devotional service. Again Prabhupada says, in order to teach the people in general the proper process for executing the duties of life and ultimately returning home back to Godhead. That's the last sentence. That's the reason why he was doing. He doesn't have to, but he was doing. because it's imperative that he does it, because he's such a great person and everyone will follow great leaders. Okay. Text 12. Chinnanyadiravikataatmagate nirihas
Chinnanyadiravikataatmagatirnirihas
Tattat yajet chichinadidam vayunena yena tavanna yoga gatibeyatir apramatto yava gadagradakata suratina kuriyat when he became completely free from the conception of bodily life, Maharaj Prithu realized Lord Krishna sitting in everyone's heart as the Paramatma. Being thus able to get all instructions from him, he gave up all other practices of yoga and jnana. He was not even interested in the perfection of the yoga and jnana systems, for he thoroughly realized that devotional service to Krishna is the ultimate goal of life, and that unless the yogis and jnanis become attracted to Krishna Katha, narrations about Krishna, the illusions concerning existence can never be dispelled. So you can see, as he's doing the austerities and meditating, all these other things are coming to him. The perfection of yoga, jnana, but he doesn't want all that anymore. He just wants to serve Krishna. So in the purport, Prabhupada writes, towards the end of the first paragraph, it is therefore mentioned in this word, Yavad Gadagraja Kathasu Rati Na Kuryat. Unless one becomes interested in Krishna, in his pastimes and activities, there is no question of liberation by means of yoga practice or speculative knowledge. Right? Generally, if you don't have Krishna, then you end up in Brahmajyoti. Yeah, that's about the maximum you can get. Alright? You do yoga, you end up in Brahmajyoti. You do jnana, you end up in Brahmajyoti. That's all. Only when you accept Krishna, then you go beyond that.
Jnanis go up to Paramatma.
But yeah, but if they want to merge with Paramatma, they will come back to Brahmajyoti.
Yogis go to Paramatma. Jnani go to Brahmajyoti.
Yeah, but through Paramatma they will merge with Brahmajyoti.
Oh.
It's not like they stay with Paramatma, no. That's what happens. When you don't know about Bhakti, you end up in Brahman. You can say it's a superior Brahman, Brahmavadi, that's all. That's
First class Brahmavadi.
yeah, you can say that. And the rest of the paragraph, Prabhupada talks about what jnana is and the difference in Paramhamsa stage compared to a jnani who does Hatha Yoga and so on. It's a good read about jnanis and Paramahamsa and difference between a devotee and a non-devotee. Text 13. Evam savira pravaraha samyojatmanamatmani brahmabhuto dhritam kale tatyaja swam kalevaram. In due course of time, when Prithu Maharaj was to give up his body, he fixed his mind firmly upon the lotus feet of Krishna, and thus completely situated on the Brahmabhuta platform, he gave up the material body. So here he's already finished. Purport. According to a Bengali proverb, whatever spiritual progress one makes in life will be tested at the time of death. This is for all of us, not just for one person only, not for another person, all of us. In Bhagavad Gita it is also confirmed, Yam Yam Vapi Smaran Bhavam Tyadi Tyadi Kalavin Tam Tam Yadipati Sada Bhava Bhavitaha. Those who are practicing Krishna consciousness know that their examination will be held at the time of death. So we know even Prabhupada wanted to show us how to die. It's interesting, but he could have just left his body, but no, he was showing how to die. And the way he showed is he was focused on Krishna consciousness. He was focused on Krishna, he was focused on his service. Not at all worried about his body or anything external.
He was translating on the dictaphone and
Yes.
they were recording. And
Yes. So if you look at the 14th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto, you will see that was the last one he did. And look at the purports and everything. So the point is, we need to practice our consciousness in terms of Krishna, in terms of service and so on, so that at the time of that, at least Krishna will feel some kind of compassion for us and say, oh, at least he tried, so I will take him back to God. The concession, because it's somehow or other it's up to Krishna. Yadricha. It's up to him, and it's causeless. You cannot say, I did all, I for so many 50 years I've been chanting nicely, so you have to take me. We can say that, but it's actually still up to
Krishna.
It's up to Krishna. So therefore, to come even to that stage, we need to be consistently doing it. Consistently. So we will all be tested at the time of death. And so Prabhupada continues, if one can remember Krishna at death, he is immediately transferred to Goloka Vrindavan or Krishna Loka. And thus his life becomes successful. Prithu Maharaj, by the grace of Krishna, could understand that the end of his life was near, and thus he became very jubilant and proceeded to completely give up his body in the Brahma Bhuta stage by practicing the yogic process. Still, he wants to show the people how to use the yogic process, because he wants to set example. And Krishna, now he can see Krishna in his heart, and Krishna is telling him what to do. Okay, so he's doing that. It is thoroughly described in the following verses how one can voluntarily give up this body and return home back to Godhead. The yogic process practiced by Prithu Maharaj at the time of death accelerates the giving up of this body while one is in sound health physically and mentally. Every devotee desires to give up the body while it is sound physically and mentally. So the famous verse by Kulashekara is there. If you guys can memorize that, good for you. King Kulashekara wanted to give up his body while in a healthy state, and he thus prayed to Krishna to let him die immediately while he was in a good health and while his mind was sound. Otherwise, when you're dying, you choke, bile from liver, also everything is just breaking down, and you cannot focus on anything. Alright, so and Prithu Maharaj is sitting in a certain position called Muktasana. Alright, we'll come to that later. Text 14. Sampidyapayum pashnibhyam
Sampidyapayum pashnibhyam
Vayum utsarayan chanai
Vayum utsarayan chanai
Nabhyam kosteshvavastapya
Navyam kosteshvavastapya
Ritura kanta shirshani.
Ritura kanta shishani.
When Maharaj Prithu practiced a particular yogic sitting posture, Muktasana, he blocked the doors of his anus with his ankles, pressed his right and left calves, and gradually raised his life air upward, passing it onto the circle of his navel, up to his heart and throat, and finally pushed it upward to the central position between his two eyebrows. This is raising the Kundalini. Okay?
There in the 8th chapter also Krishna.
Yeah. So he's just raising the whole prana and everything up one stage up to one stage. So that's what he's saying. Life air, moving the life air. So it's a Kundalini yoga.
So is there a special place it is there in the body, like
Yeah, it's all there.
Chakras.
The yoga process.
Because he's studying upper.
Yeah. So when you do it, practice, it'll move from your
Bottom
spine,
of spine.
Oh,
then it goes up to your navel, and from navel it goes
Heart's
to your middle here, and then the chest, and then the throat, and then between your eyes, then you go out.
There's like 8 chakras. Through
Yeah.
each chakra it traverses.
So it is there.
We had from the top it goes, but
There you
then
go.
it goes to the eyebrows.
No. Sahasrara chakra, that's where they leave. There's Randhra.
True, but here in this case, like between the eyebrows.
Yeah, it comes here.
No,
but
it
the
hasn't-
leading air will actually leave from the.
Finally,
from
you are here. Then from there, when you leave, you go through.
Brahmarandhra. Yeah.
Then they'll go to Brahmaloka from here.
No, they go wherever they want to go.
Yeah, they have
You have the ability to
Visa.
decide where. You can
Correct.
go to any of the material planets, or you can even go to Krishna.
Krishna.
If you
Yeah,
do.
for Prathama.
Yes.
if you know.
Yeah, if you know, otherwise you don't.
You will have
So
it.
Prabhupada talks about it in the second paragraph. The aim of this particular system of asana, known as the sitting posture for liberation, muktasana, is to attain success in Kundalini chakra and gradually raise the life air from Mooladhara chakra to the Swadhisthana chakra, then to the Manipura chakra, the Anahata chakra, the Vishuddha chakra, and finally to the Agya chakra. Okay? So when he reaches to the Brahmarandhra near, then he'll jump out or burst through. That's what they do. Okay? So the final stage is between the eyebrow, and then from there he can burst through the Brahmarudra, Randhra. But to come to practice that, first you must not be affected by material nature. Anything in matter, nothing should disturb you. Brahma Bhuta Prasanna. But this is their practice at the Satya Yuga level. So not for us. So in the last paragraph, Prabhupada says, consequently, a devotee need not feel sorry for not having practiced the Kundalini chakra. It's for all of us thinking, oh, I should be doing that.
I'm missing that.
Or not penetrating the 6 chakras one after another. As far as Maharaj Prithu was concerned, he had already practiced this process, and since he did not want to wait for the time when his death would occur naturally, he took advantage of the Sat Chakra penetration process and thus gave up the body according to his own free will and immediately entered the spiritual sky. Now generally people want to live long and then die, but part of the reason the whole culture, Vedic culture, is if you are going to wait, you have to go through so much suffering also. As you get old, your body is going to be giving you a lot of hell. That's the nature of the world, the material world. So they have successfully have understood the nature of this human existence. So they say at certain time in your life, you retire and then practice giving up. So of course in Kali Yuga you may say what to do. So Prabhupada showed us, you retire and you go out and preach. And then when you die you are successful just like Prithu Maharaj. Just preach all the time, and then when you die, that's fine. Dying at the battlefield, like Bhishma did. Text 15. Utsarpayam stutam mudni
Sarvayam sutam mudni
Kamena vishya nishpriha
Kamena vishya nisraha
Vayam vayo shito kalyam
Vayam vayo kshito kalyam
Tejas tejashi ayujuja.
Tejas tejas ayurja.
In this way, Prithu Maharaj gradually raised his air of life up to the hole in his skull, whereupon he lost all desire for material existence. Gradually he merged his air of life with the totality of air, his body with the totality of earth, and the fire within his body with the totality of fire. Now what this is that if you remember reading in the previous canto, third and the second canto, how the elements are combining one after another. So similarly, because of how they combine, our body is also made up of the same elements. So now he's like disassociating with all these elements that are part of my ego, my identification. So he's now saying, I'm not this, I'm not that, and then slowly he is the soul. That's all. Like that. So that's what it means by he's freeing his material covering. Okay, in the discussion, how he's merging means he is now thinking. Anyway, in the process you will know what you are doing because Krishna is telling him what to do. Giving up all those attachments and so on. Yeah. Alright, then towards the end of the paragraph, the last paragraph, in the middle, Prabhupada says, that if you go to the Brahman effulgence, he says there is a 99.9% chance. The reason is there is a possibility that 1 or 2 persons can either remain there or they can move on. That's a possibility. Krishna can bless someone.
Maybe like if Narada Muni passing by through the Brahma Jyoti sings the transcendental glories and one of them catches that.
They may catch, but they cannot immediately go. They have to practice Bhakti Yoga before going. Nobody gets a free ride.
But that they have to take birth again in the material.
They may come down and practice and go back. Yeah.
They'll be quick.
But for example, the point here is that they may be promoted. So there is somehow or other they get a blessing and they can go back. There is a very rare chance. That's what his point is. Who knows, right? Somebody may be stuck there in the Brahma Jyoti, then maybe your son or whatever pray to Krishna and say, my father is stuck there, take him back. So Krishna may take you back like that.
Well, they also practice in Brahma Loka and then they go back with Brahma.
Yeah, it's possible. They come down, but still they're coming down. Here Prabhupada isn't saying that. He says, promoted from the Brahman effulgence. Okay, anyway, he says this Brahma Jyoti is considered by impersonalists to be without variety, and the Buddhists consider it to be void. In either case, whether one accepts the spiritual sky as being without variety or void, there is none of the spiritual bliss which is enjoyed in the spiritual planets, the Vaikunthas or Krishna Loka. In the absence of varieties of enjoyment, the spirit soul gradually feels an attraction to enjoy a life of bliss. And not having any information of Krishna Loka or Vaikuntha Loka, he naturally falls down to material activities in order to enjoy material varieties. So understand this. Nobody goes back home from the Brahma Jyoti. Although that's true, Prabhupada says 99.9 times they don't. There may be an outside chance, maybe, but we do not want that kind of situation. Text 16. Kanyakashe dravam toye
Kanyakashe dravam toye
Yatasthanam vivagashah
Yatasthanam vivagashah
Shitim ambasi tattejasi
Kshitim ambasita tejasi
Adovayo navasi amum.
Adovayo nabhasyamum.
In this way, according to the different positions of the various parts of the body, Prithu Maharaj merged the wholes of his senses with the sky, his bodily liquids such as blood and various secretions with the totality of water, and he merged earth with water, then water with fire, fire with air, air with sky, and so on.
Reverse.
Everything reverse. Yes, everything is reverse. Text 17. Indreshu manastani
Indriyeshu manastani
Tanmatreshu yatadbhavam
Tanmatreshu yatadbhavam
Bhutadinam muni utkrishya
Bhutadinam Krishya
Mahati atmani sandade.
Mahati atmani sandade.
He amalgamated the mind with the senses and the senses with the sense objects according to their respective positions, and he also amalgamated the material ego with the total material energy Mahatattva. So same thing that we studied, and Prabhupada again talks about the same thing in the purport that we did read in the second and third canto. Now in the last paragraph towards the middle, Prabhupada writes, because when devotees are reading this, they may always think I should be doing like Prithu Maharaj. The tendency is, I think I can do these austerities, and there is that because of our false ego, and we think we know better than Prabhupada. So therefore, to address that situation, Prabhupada says, in this age of Kali, it is very difficult to adopt the yogic process mentioned in this verse.